readiness and building an innovation appetite as a CFO. And for this, I would like to invite on stage Ms. Divya Kumar, who is Group Digital CFO at IKEA. Giving a brief introduction, she carries over 23 plus years of experience in strategy, finance, digital, and analytics, and is a certified independent board director and has worked in various industries across US, Europe, and India. She also leads acquisitions, partnerships, information security, data privacy, and decision analytics globally. She was earlier part of the exciting journey of opening the first IKEA store and e-commerce in India. Currently an India board member, she steers the expansion of the digital hub in India. With this, please welcome Ms. Divya with a huge round of applause.
Good morning, everyone. I assume this goes. Do we have the text loaded? Okay, very good. Let's start with this. So, my name is Divya. How many of you have kids? Okay, great. So you all know that nothing ever happens as you want it to happen, right? They never do what you expect them to do, and they never do what you want them to do either. And our world has become like that a little bit, and we need to become like that. Because, I mean, to give you a small example, here is a train set, right? You lay train tracks. If you give it to most adults, they will make a circle, right? You give it to most kids, you give it to 10 kids, they will do it in 10 different ways, right? There's no one way to do it. And we need to sort of, as finance people, as CFOs, I think we need to relearn. We need to unlearn, we need to relearn, we need to lay different tracks than what we are traditionally used to. I work for IKEA. I don't know how many of you are aware of it. We have a store in Bangalore now, finally, after a lot of people, kept asking me. But just a small brief about IKEA. We are a global retailer, about 40 billion euros in size. We have, I mean, these huge stores, right? They're about 10, 12 acres, and really big. People come to experience. It's not about the furnishing or the furniture, but they come as an experience. The kids come, they play around, it's like a day out rather than an experience. We have about 400 stores in 32 countries. We also have shopping centers across. And that's where 95% of the business used to be, right? Now, 75% is there and 25% is here in 3 years' time, which is the app, the web, everything. How do you recreate an experience that people are used to for 80 years? So IKEA has been around for 80 years, right? Which is in their stores day out on digitization. So digitization is like a huge thing on all our minds. And think about it, this is not just about having a web, having an app, right? This is really about how do you recreate customer experience? How do you redesign your entire fulfillment? How do you really think about, how do things come alive? How do you really make, for all of us finance people, how do you make the revenue recognition and order flows, right, in a way that actually caters to this kind of huge omni-channel shift in a very short amount of time? We all know, and I don't need to say this, we all know world is changing, not just in terms of what I was just speaking about, which is about digital, etc., but we have a war going on, we have, inflation, we have supply chain disruptions, we had COVID, still have a little bit, everything, right? So everything has changed. It's not like one thing, two things, it's like, I mean, we've got hit from pretty much all sides. But what has this really done to us, right? It has shifted business. We spoke about transformation just now. Ankit was speaking about it. We spoke, Meenakshi was also speaking about it. It's all about, our business is shifting. We don't have a choice in the matter anymore. Things are hitting us from all sides. The business has to move. And very importantly, we need to move, right? The CFO role has changed. We cannot be finance people. There is nothing called finance anymore, right? I mean, that is just one small subset of what we really do as a job on a daily basis. I can tell you honestly, I do 10% finance in my role as the CFO, and that's saying a lot, right? So I just want to pick up 3 things out of all the things that, we spoke about. And just to, give you a bit of a brief, I said 10%, but just to explain my role a little bit, I'm what we call the group digital CFO. So what we did about 4 years back when all these shifts happened is that started happening. They hadn't yet happened as much. but we combined the entire digital technology data analytics globally into one unit across the world, brought it all together, consolidated with a chief digital officer, and I'm the CFO of that global unit. Apart from my CFO role, I also lead partnerships and ecosystems, which basically means that we do a lot of innovation. So in the digital space, so we work with Google to innovate, we work with startups, we work with, we take minority stakes, we acquire companies, in order to actually do this transformation. So I lead that entire innovation space for them. I also lead enterprise analytics or decision intelligence, which is basically about the omni-channel analytics. How does your web funnel work? How does, who's buying from what? Who's buying here and, researching here, selling there? What exactly is going on in the entire omni-channel space, and also I lead the information security data privacy globally. On the India side, I'm on the board of India, as well as I lead the digital hub in India. So it's a kind of, as you see, the CFO role has evolved. I'm called the CFO, right? But it's kind of much, much broader than that. And this is a trend. This is not about me, right? This is a trend we see in the industry. And with that, I want to focus on three key changes, right, from the last time to this time. One is we already spoke about the omni-channel, the differences in the way customers buy. And this doesn't matter whether you're in a B2C or in a B2B. It really doesn't matter. The fact is the customer is buying differently, whoever your customer is, right? And wherever they sit, and they're using what they buy also differently. It is not just that they're buying differently. And technology is no longer about IT, right? Technology is business. There is nothing called technology versus business versus anything else. Every single point, whether you serve a customer, whether you're doing your job as a co-worker, whether you're, whether it's your supply chain, there is nothing that moves. A good doesn't move from here to there without technology. So how can we talk about technology investments, IT investments? There's nothing called that anymore. It's a business investment, right? Because there is no technology, there's no difference between the two. It's embedded. And there is data. And the reason I put data here is that this is not about business intelligence, about, analytics. Yes, of course, all that is there. And it's good, good to have all that. It is about simply data flow. We are a 40 billion euro company, right? Think about it. The number of orders that flow to our system is huge. It's millions, right? Millions and billions. And with that, if everything has to flow right as you're doing technology changes, you're doing digitization, data flows are super important. Forget for anything else, even for compliance, right? For booking your revenue right, for having your P&L right, for basics. It doesn't have to be analytics, even for basics. I used to be the chief data and analytic officer of the company globally. And the one focus I had was also technology architecture, data architecture. How do they really blend? How are they one and the same? Because if you don't have data architecture, nothing is going to flow right, in your entire thing. And that is changing drastically. It is, of course, with big data, everything, flows are super important here. And why do I bring these three things up, right? Understanding all this and steering it has become super important for all of us. When I say understanding, we cannot be CFOs and say we don't understand digitization and technology. We can't say we don't understand the terms. We can't say that, oh, I don't know what this technology does. We can no longer rely on the CTO of the business for that. Of course, it's his job. I'm sure he's doing a great job. But if we don't do our job in learning all of it, we will be failing as individuals in this entire journey. Because it is, like I said, technology is business. We can't say, how does your legacy speak to your new? We are an 80-year-old company, right? I can't keep taking flashy things, just putting it on top of my legacy and assuming, everything will work. I can't invest unless I understand that end-to-end landscape of my old, my new. How does it talk to each other? How does this data flow? How does the technology flow? Everything has become super important, for us to really understand and learn. I was actually very lucky because I always had an interest in technology, though I did, my, finance background and education. When I did BCom, I'm talking now 1990s, right? At that time we had NIIT. I was probably one of the only people who was doing BCom and 3 years of coding courses and programming courses. Over the years, I have become more and more, I have learned Python, it has become a journey which is not about finance anymore, right? I've headed analytics, and the reason I'm saying this is not, again, it's not about my thing, it's about, we are business people. I can do my job as the CFO only if I understand, especially two things. now. I mean, apart from business, of course. One is technology, the other is data and analytics. If I don't understand these two, I can't do my job. It's as simple as that, right? And so, and that has caused a very different kind of, and where does that become important? In that triangle we have, which I have on the right side, has become more and more and more important. And why am I saying this? We all have limited budgets, we all know that, right? There's only that much money, that we have. And there's only that much capacity we have. We can't just keep hiring talent for digitization. The capability requirement has changed with digitalization, right? But we can't keep, hiring lots and lots and lots of people. Of course, we need to reskill, et cetera, et cetera. But how do you, if your bottom part is constrained, cost is constrained, people is constrained, how do you maximize value has become very, very, very important, more important than ever before, right? If you have certain objectives, business objectives for which you need digitization, how do you maximize your cost and people to actually attain that value has also become super important, right? So how do we play with this triangle in a way that it is always our focus? It is always not about budget. It is not just about people. It's not just about value. But how do we maximize the triangle has become so important. And also, where do we invest? Because all of us, one of the big challenges is, of course, the tech organization will always come and tell us, we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to do something else. How do we really make sure we're investing in what is right? How do we understand what solutions will have longevity, right? And which of them are flash in the pan? They'll come today, they'll go tomorrow, right? Which of them, as Ankit was also saying, are really important to our business? Because at the end of it, if it moves your business objective, it's good. And in the longer term also, not just short term. How do you look at short term, medium term, long term? Because sometimes you have to react. There was a question about reactive, proactive. I think we all love to be proactive, but the fact is that the world makes us react also, right? So there is a balance between that we have to do, but in that reaction, we can never compromise the long term as we're doing short-term fixes and short-term solutions. So how do you have that constantly in mind and actually complete this triangle? Innovation, right? Innovation is it used to be a little bit more of a closed box, of course, with pores in it, which, we used to innovate with people, with customers, with others. But now it has become completely OpenX. And what do we mean for those of you who are not aware of the OpenX model? It means that basically leveraging the entire ecosystem for your innovation. It is not about you anymore because there is so much out there, and I think the world has become so much more open, right? And thankfully, the software industry started that with the open source models and everything to say, how can we leverage things as an industry together? And how can we actually then gain the network effects that are, that actually get created because of that? How do we balance all these things? Internal talent, of course, important, but also strategic partnerships. How do we partner and innovate with people we may have had for 20 years, we've never innovated too much with, but how do we reach the next stage with them as to actually innovate and co-create also, say with a Google, say with Microsoft, say with even the Capgeminis of the world or whoever are your other vendors of the world, right? Minority stakes. So basically so one thing we do, I'm on also what we call the Venture Capital Portfolio Council of IKEA globally, where we take minority stakes in companies which are innovating. Right, so these are new age companies. So I'll give you a simple example, sustainable technology. So technology to actually make your supply chain more sustainable or to make those are, and for recycling, for example, or other things. Now, these are all things we know we are going to need in the future, but if we invest our time and effort doing it ourselves, it probably takes a lot more money, investment, focus from the resources we currently have internally. So how can we really step out there and find those good companies, partner with them, probably take a minority stake, help them grow, good for them, good for us, good for the entire ecosystem. Acquisitions. For example, one of the things we found, I led an acquisition 2 years back of a company called 𝗕𝗏 which was in California, still is. The reason we acquired them, right? So it's a visual AI company, augmented reality. This is not about flash in the pan, okay, everybody's going after AR, VR, let's do it. Right? It was a very well thought through business decision because one of the key things IKEA does is, or IKEA customers do, is planning. They plan their kitchens with us. They come into our store. They plan their kitchens with us. They plan their houses with us. They say, okay, if I take out this sofa, put this, if I do this, if I change my entire room set, how does it look? Right? And we can't do that online easily right now. So we bought this fantastic company, and recently we launched what we call IKEA Creative, which is right now available in the US, where you can sit in your home, do the entire planning, right? You can take any IKEA product, place it wherever you want in your house. You can take with your regular smartphone, take 3D pictures of your entire house. It converts 2D into 3D. Then you can plug and play, you can, throw things in. It's a business use case for us. It is not about the technology. It's what I meant by technology and business are one and the same. This is about enabling our customers to plan sitting in their houses, because this is huge for them. This is important for them, right? And, very good acquisition. And then suppliers. So, I think the point I want to make here is that we have the P&L and the balance sheet. We usually think of one or the other, but in terms of innovation, we really need to look at them together. How can we leverage both what we have, in our P&L, there's only that much we can afford budget-wise, etc., and what we have in our balance sheet, which is our cash and, all the other assets we have, to actually innovate in a combined manner from a CFO perspective. Okay, and then what do we need to turn into? We already spoke about digital CFO. We all need to learn, digital. We need to be agile. We all know, let's face it, the annual planning cycle doesn't work. It doesn't. It used to work once upon a time. Now, halfway through the year, we are like, things have changed in the world, so how do you reallocate, right? It doesn't mean we change all our processes. I'm not saying, we have we have investors accountable for, we have stock markets, companies are accountable for, we have so many things we're accountable for, right? But how can we be agile as a CFO and in our finance departments to be willing to reallocate the money, reallocate, rethink, and do things differently during the year without compromising the end of it, right? So it's important to think a little bit agile. Social CFO, I believe a lot. I don't know how many of you read The Economist, the last Economist that came. Across Europe and a lot of places, the temperature has been 1 degree higher last month, right, in October. Now this is, and it's true that things are changing in the world and we have to be socially responsible. Who can drive it? It is us. We have the cash in our hands, we know where we are going. How can we be champions? Data ethics, data privacy, like I said, it's a huge risk, right? It's not just a brand reputation risk for us. With GDPR, etc., we'll lose a lot of money if we don't do it. So from a shift perspective, we need a mindset shift. We already spoke about that a lot. We need a knowledge shift and we spoke about that also. So both how we think, what we gain, and we need a role shift. I won't spend more time. I think we've covered this on that. As the last few points, right, just a few essentials. It's business at the center. We speak digitization, but it's really business at the center. What's good for business is good for digitization. It's good for investment at the end of the day. We do need to, let's face it, we as finance community are risk averse. We won't be in finance if we are not risk averse, if we are the biggest risk takers in the world, right? Anybody disagree? Right. So, but we do need to change our DNA a little bit. We can't be as risk averse as we were in the past, because innovation and the new world requires that we take some risks. Important thing is that how do we put a framework around that risk, right? And how do we really take calculated risk? How do we fail fast? Let's set up our company in a way that we can actually learn fast, fail fast, invest fast, get out of investment fast. Let's not get married to things, because things will not work, I can assure you. There is no way everything you invest in is going to work, right? And we all know that. But how do we learn it fast and not have sunk costs that we're sitting on and don't take out, right? Let's set clear principles, be it for innovation, digitization. What do we want to invest in the future? What are those principles? It's not just about ROI. The ROI, again, doesn't work, for digitization, because we all work in a DevOps model. It's not about, okay, in 5 years, it'll give you this. It's about today, every day the development is being done. It's like taking a Mona Lisa painting and saying that all I do is a sketch and then every day I fill in new colors. How can you get an ROI, right? It's not something easy. So that being the case, principles are important. What really are the principles you need in order to steer? Lead by example. A few of you spoke about it earlier. Your teams will change mindset, knowledge, everything if you change, right? So it is, if we lead by example, by being that change, by being true and complete business leader, by showing the mindset shift, knowledge shift, social shift, our teams will also change. And to end, this is the founder of IKEA, 𝗥𝗲𝗴𝗶𝗶. He founded the company 80 years back. And one thing he said is only those who are asleep make no mistakes, right? And it's so true. We will make mistakes because the world is changing so drastically. We can't be right. We are not superhuman, right? We are going to make mistakes, and digitization especially is something nobody knows what the future holds, and things are going to continue to change. It's okay to make mistakes as long as we don't make them twice, right? I mean, that's important. So I just want to say thank you to all of you for listening in, and thanks a lot.
Great, thanks a lot, Divya, for the session. Do we have any questions for her? Yes, sir.
Divya, first of all, thanks a lot. Very insightful, especially your point on investment in technology is investment in business, right? And I also like the point that you're talking about being agile. But as a large corporation, right, the same thought that you said is also being followed by technology companies and startup worlds, right? How do you like get yourself well informed about all the business models that are out there in the market, right? If they're doing something disruptive.
I think research is very, very, very important. So one of my teams, which is the strategic, partnerships and ecosystems teams, we actually have a research arm. And the reason we have a research arm is not to do our own research. It's to actually curate what is happening in the market. Because in the organizations, it's impossible for anybody to keep up to date with everything that's going on. If I read the technology news every day, I mean, I'll go crazy because there's so much going on out there, right? So we actually have a team that curates the new trends on a weekly basis and says, this is what has actually happened. This is what companies are doing. This is something new, and actually flashes saying, here is something interesting. So I think it's good for all of us to think about how can we make that systemic inside a company rather than each of us doing it individually.
Great, thanks a lot, ma'am.